Hi, this is Glenn Loury. This clip is taken from a conversation I recently posted at my Patreon page. The full episode will be available for free in a few days, but if you want to see it now and support the show, please go to patreon.com/Glenn Show. That's patreon.com/Glenn Show. Thanks.
15 years ago, say, I used to always duck debating Michael Eric Dyson. People used to ask, me to debate him, sometimes for money. And I used to turn it down. I must have turned that down 4 or 5 times. And the reason I did was because I thought, to the extent that Dyson and I had disagreements about things, and he and I have never been enemies, we're fine now. But back then I thought, if I get into a room with him, he's going to do that preacher thing. He's got that I'm up from the streets, I used to be on welfare thing. He's got the I'm an ordained minister. And I'm this starchy person standing there in a suit, sounding like I teach at some university. And back then I had the Manhattan Institute associated with me. And I thought, no matter what I say, no matter how I put it, no matter what kind of debating skills I use, there's going to be a big group of people in the audience, probably over half of it, who think he's right just because of the way he talks and the words he uses and his authenticity, et cetera, et cetera. I thought it'll look like I lost. And so I used to avoid it for that reason. And then as I got a little older and I started feeling a little more sure of myself. Now I've allowed myself to be in spaces with him. But back then I used to think I couldn't win because it might look like I'm wrong. These people might feel that way about us too, especially given that they have a sense that we have a very sinister audience. I think there's a sense that you and I only appeal to Republican, conservative white people. And that's a vastly outdated take on us. But,
Well, that's just not true. It's
not remotely true anymore. But, everybody, we can't all keep up with each other. And a lot of them think that we're only talking to some guy in Arlington, Virginia, 65-year-old white conservative guy who wishes Reagan would come back. That's not either one of us. But a lot of people don't know that. So they figure, why support that? So, of course, they're not going to come on to the Glenn Show.
Well, maybe we should get some context on this. I mean, where is anybody who disagrees sharply about Black Lives Matter, about affirmative action, about reparations? I'm talking about Black people who disagree sharply, who have a prominent profile as commentators, intellectuals, journalists, academics, social critics, having an argument in public, taking the respective sides of those issues. Where is the argument with prominent Black people involved in it, where reparations is discussed, or the Black family, or Al Sharpton as a leader? I don't know that argument is happening anywhere. So maybe there are more fundamental factors that are at work. I mean, so who are excuse me, just to finish the thought. Who are the people who set the stage? I mean, at the journals, New York Times, Sunday Magazine, the Atlantic Monthly, or whatever it is, at the networks, who would get a round table where they actually, Bill Maher, where we would, I mean, there are many, many different venues. These are agents who are implicit in the determination of what actually gets talked about. So I think there's kind of like a broader question, because there really is people are hungry. I'll just finish the thought to hear these debates. I want Nicole Hannah-Jones to come on the Glenn Show and defend the 1619 Project. I haven't been shy about what my criticisms are of the 1619 Project. I mean, let's talk about what the narrative should be for our school children for the future of this country in relation to the experiences of African Americans. I have a view about that.
I know what you mean. But honestly, if take an example. If Kendi had a podcast, or folks, what you're hearing is my phone ringing, and this is real life, and I'm just going to let it ring. If Kendi had a podcast, or if Kendi had a show like this, the Kendi Show or something like that, and I saw him on there clucking his tongue and saying that I'm a racist and I need to look at myself in the mirror, which is what he said about me, probably not knowing that I was ever going to find out. But if I saw him doing it and he's talking to Roland Martin or something like that, if they then invited me to come on the show, hell no. No, I'd rather read a book, just because it would be rather unpleasant. Why would I want to engage with somebody who clearly seems to dislike me personally? and is going to disrespect me in that way. That might be how these people feel. And so I'm not only asking you, I'm asking a lot of people out there who are roasting people like Kendi and Jones for not debating. I don't know if I would debate us, given the way us sometimes behave. I think we need to give them a little credit just for that.
So are you reprimanding yourself and indirectly me by saying that we have behaved badly and in an inhospitable way that has stifled the debate?
No, I'm not. I'm not. I really don't like the way some people seem to think that if we express ourselves very directly about these people, we're mean. But I wonder if the same people are hearing from those same people when they say mean things about us. And maybe they are, but somehow I doubt it. We're always seen to be punching down. It's not fair. But no, I wouldn't change a thing. But the idea that you and I are going to do shows like we've done and then criticize people like Coates for not coming on, I think we're being a little disingenuous. We should say what we want to say, how we want to say it, just like they do. But we can't then really think that these people are going to come on with a cup of tea and parlay with us. I just think we've always been a little, and by we, I mean both of us, have always been a little sly on that. Of course, Ta-Nehisi Coates didn't come on to the Glenn show. Were we really surprised? I wouldn't take back anything we said, but I wish all of us would let go of the
I'm sorry, John. I can't go with you on this. I cannot take responsibility, even indirectly, for Ta-Nehisi or anybody else not being willing to come on the Glenn show and debate these issues. I mean, I'm just going to say this once. I'm Glenn Loury, okay? I got the chops. I got the pedigree. I got the track record. I've been around for 40 years, okay? So, and these are things that are worth arguing about. I think Between the World and Me was not helpful. Okay. I mean, that condenses a whole lot of different offshoots that one could take up. And this has been talked about and it's been written about by many people, including Thomas Chatterton Williams, our friend in the London Review of Books and elsewhere. More than that, I think your critique of the reaction to Between the World and Me, which is to be offended that the culture barons would bestow such honor on a work of such little ultimate value, in your opinion, if I quote you correctly. You know, this is a well-established thing. This is out there. If I were riding high with Hollywood studios throwing 7 figures at me to write scripts and publishing houses being willing to advance me high in the 6 or low in the 7 figures for my next project, and with the high academic and cultural custodians, gatekeepers of the shrine of, you know, significant influence in the society at a high level, willing to embrace me. And with accolades coming from everywhere, why would I bother? Okay, I mean, so that's
probably.
I have nothing to gain, and I have a lot to lose. Okay, I have nothing to gain. Suppose I successfully dispatched the gnat, which is the nettlesome John McWhorter. This is you and Nicole Hannah-Jones on the Morning Joe show some time ago. Suppose I successfully bat him away. Mm-hmm. I've gained very little. Suppose he guts me. Suppose I find myself in a corner. Suppose I'm really no match for him. Suppose I can't rebut his sharpest critical edge. I got a lot to lose. And by the way, I boost him. I make him my equal. He's not my equal. This kind of thing. And I think you're way too generous to these people. They have, in my opinion, a duty to come on the Glenn show. A duty. Okay, it's not about taking me seriously, although I have earned that.
Yeah.
It's about integrity. It's about honor. Really, I mean, you throw something out there like that, you should be willing to stand up for it and against the sternest opposition.
I think when it comes to these particular issues, though, I think you might misread them in supposing that they could actually imagine being filleted the way you're describing. I don't think they imagine that. What they know is racism exists, and it's the reason for all Black problems. That's what they know. And for them, there's no denying that. There's no reason to debate that. And because you and I, quote unquote, don't think racism exists, or we don't think it matters, to them, that sums up what we are. We think there's something wrong with Black people, and that's it. Well, they're just going to drive by that mess. They just figure, I think what they think is, I wouldn't gain enough. Why should I bother? I don't know if they're thinking they could actually be pushed into a corner, or that it would be a real debate. Like, for example, when Nicole Hannah-Jones kind of not cut you off, but said on Twitter last week, I think it was, that she won't engage with you because of, the vitriol that she saw. I caught this exchange very quickly.
Some of which came from you, by the way, John.
Yes, it did. But
I just want people to know I'm not the only one up here.
She she said at one point, I've never mentioned either one of them in my work, something to that effect. And what's interesting is that just the day before, I had been made privy to an exchange she participated in where she trashed my entire career. Now, she didn't send it to my name, so she didn't know that I saw it, but apparently I think race and racism don't matter, and yet I have built a whole career talking about race and racism, and this leaves out my whole other and just as busy career as linguist. I guess she doesn't know about that. She said that, and I didn't say anything. I just let that go, but yes, she has addressed me. But that's what people like that think of us. We think that racism doesn't matter, and that's the sum of what we're saying. Whereas what we're actually saying is racism doesn't matter as much as what these people are saying, and eliminating racism is not the way to make Black people's lives better in all cases, which is different. And I don't think it's even all that deep, but they are not hearing us that way. They're hearing us as saying racism ended in 1964. So they just figure, why bother with them? And if that's what you think, you're not going to engage anybody's work closely. You're not going to read their whole books or something like that. I wouldn't if I were them. So I can tell that with a lot of people like that, they saw me on C-SPAN talking about losing the race in about 2001 or two. They've got this picture of 30-something me talking to white conservatives back early in the Bush administration, and they let it go there. Why would they ever engage me again? They have other things to do. We don't engage everybody. Sometimes you just let one snapshot take care of it. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying that I agree with their views, and I'm not saying.
Can I say something, John? I think I think you're selling yourself, and I think you're selling us short. They should engage with us because we're interesting. They should engage. They should engage with us because we're saying things that deserve to be thought about, even if we're wrong. They should engage with us because they're curious. Why do you read the newspaper? Why do when somebody comes out with a new book that's about something that I think is interesting, why do I read it? I read it because I think I got something to learn. You don't think they have anything to learn from us?
Oh, they do.
Okay, so they should engage with us. I mean, that's what we're talking about.